What's going on, guys? Welcome into the Chiefs Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Happy Chiefs Zone Wednesday to all of you. The Chiefs coming off their bye week, and they are back in action this Sunday as they face the Broncos for a big divisional game. This one has a lot of implications in terms of both winning the AFC West and playoff standings, as the Chiefs right now, as everyone's mentioned in the last week and a half essentially, that the Chiefs are looking outside of the playoff picture, and they are trying to get back into it. Obviously going to need some help now with the way the standings are looking, but Kansas City, they've got an opportunity to really get back on track with a game this week. So we will touch on the game between the Chiefs and the Broncos. We'll break down the Broncos, tell you everything you need to know about this Broncos team. The Broncos have kind of a crazy stat that I don't know if I've ever heard about a team in week 11 that has the best record in the NFL. You'll want to hear that crazy stat. I'll share that a little later on. We'll touch on the Chiefs and Broncos game, like I said. Also, some news in and around the NFL. I know I mentioned this earlier in the week, but I did want to get into McCall Hardman and just some of the reactions to him joining the Buffalo Bills practice squad. Steve Spagnuolo has been in the news a little bit lately as a potential candidate for the New York Giants head coaching job. Would he consider it? Patrick Mahomes responded to Bills rookie Maxwell Hairston and his comments. You'll definitely want to hear that, and I think that is a very important discussion to have on this podcast. Also, we have a little bit of an update as far as the stadium front goes for the Chiefs, a little bit for the Royals as well. Boy, that's such a fun conversation to have these days, isn't it? We'll touch on that here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. And of course, we'll interact with you guys. So give me your questions and comments below and we'll get into them. Real quickly, before we go any further, I want to let you know, I have no idea what happened on Monday's podcast, excuse me. So for whatever reason, the Facebook live stream crashed. Now, we were able to kind of fix that back up and do a second live stream through Facebook. I guess it also did like a second live stream through the other social media apps. I have no idea how that happened. Look, I don't control how some of that goes sometimes. So on the off chance that Facebook crashes again, I'm commenting right now with the YouTube link. YouTube is easier to listen. It's easier to listen on the podcast through YouTube because you can get off the YouTube app and go, on Facebook, Twitter, check your emails, whatever. Whereas if you're on your phone and watching through Facebook or Instagram, I appreciate all of you guys who are doing that, by the way. But just know that, you're not able to get off the app unless you don't want to listen to me, which, that's understandable as well. But in case, for whatever reason, if the Facebook stream crashes again, which I am told should not happen, but if it does, the YouTube link is right there for you guys to click on. That way you guys don't miss any part of the live stream. This podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. The Chiefs are back this week. If you guys want to travel to Denver to check out the Kansas City Chiefs, or if you want to wait for the Chiefs to come back to Arrowhead the following week in a big game against the Indianapolis Colts, or if you want to check out some college football action as that season is winding down, college basketball is underway, KU, K-State, Mizzou. We've got the NBA and the NHL. Those two sports right now in full swing. Hey, want to watch any of the action in person? Get your tickets on SeatGeek. And if you're a new SeatGeek customer, you can use my promo code FARZINE and save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets, and at checkout, new customers can enter my promo code FARZINE, and you'll save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Jim says, I just wish they'd make up their mind. Yeah. That, listen, I guess that's where we have to begin here, because for those who are just tuning in, the stadium front has been getting some attention lately. We didn't really bring this up last week because we weren't doing any live streams last week. I made a post about this on social media, so if you saw this, you'll know that the Chiefs, they've been talking to some important people in terms of a possible move to Kansas. Keep in mind, I said possible move to Kansas. I'll get into that in a moment. But the big news yesterday, coming from the state of Missouri, Governor Mike Kehoe, he tossed the idea of the Chiefs building a retractable roof over Arrowhead Stadium. He said this would kind of be like a European design with fabric material over the stadium, over the roof, supported by cables that can be open or closed. Very similar to the stadium the Chiefs played in, and I think it was Frankfurt. Where did the Chiefs play the Dolphins? Was it Frankfurt or Munich? I can't remember. I think it was Frankfurt at Deutsche Bank Park Stadium. If you guys remember, they showed at some point during the game how the roof opens and closes. So that's kind of what he's referring to. Now, fabric material in the Midwest where, you know, you deal with tornadoes every now and then, I don't really know about that. Now, the timing of the Chiefs, the timing of Missouri suggesting anything about a roof, a retractable roof, very interesting, because this comes after, almost a week after, late last week, reports of the Chiefs submitting a request for proposal to multiple firms to build a new stadium in KCK. Pete Mundo of KCMO Talk Radio, he was talking about the details on this. Would be a 65,000 seat stadium, retractable grass field, very similar to what the Las Vegas Raiders have. Now, the Las Vegas Raiders, that field is god awful. It looks like a bunch of dogs were let loose and they just took a dump all over the field. Like, I don't know how you can have a $1.9 billion, almost a $2 billion stadium, and you let the field look that bad. I was at the Chiefs Raiders game in Vegas last year and I filmed the end zone. I mean, listen, I hope this is okay to say. The Raiders have a great color scheme, whether people want to admit it or not, in Kansas City. And so if they do it right, the end zones look great, except they let the grass just look so awful and the field just looks bad, like terrible conditions. I don't know how the NFL is letting teams get away with this. This happens a lot. The Chiefs are considered one of the best teams in the league in terms of their grounds crew taking care of the field and whatnot. So if the Chiefs do move away from Arrowhead, I think the biggest question is, if they move to a dome and they have a retractable grass field, is that something that they can take care and manage properly during a season as well as the off season? That would be a very important thing. I don't think Clark Hunt would make this move without that happening. I mean, listen, the Chiefs are very proud of a lot of things. Obviously with the product on the field, maybe not this exact moment, but in terms of, the last 7.5 years, yeah, sure. But also a lot of the things that help support that, such as the grounds crew, the loudest fans in the NFL, their training staff, they're very proud of as well. I know Rick Burkholder did not get good grades the first couple of years. They did the NFLPA report card, but that's recently improved. And I think, it's fair to say the Chiefs have certainly learned from that, because we saw a lot of grades for the Chiefs improve in those areas. I think Clark Hunt went from an F- to a C-. So, and I know Rick Burkholder, who, everyone has nothing but great things to say about Rick. So a lot of people were shocked the first 2 years he had failing grades, but this year it was better. So when the Chiefs want to make this move, they want to make sure that they're carrying over everything else that's helped them be successful, both on and off the field. Now, Kevin Keatsman reported last week also, shortly after Pete Mundo's reporting, that the Chiefs are negotiating with NASCAR in the state of Kansas to acquire land for a potential stadium in Kansas over in the Legends area. Now, I know a lot of people have their opinions about Kevin Keatsman. That's perfectly fine. I'm not here to change your mind about him. What I will say is both Pete and Kevin, they have been fairly on top of all of this. I know a lot of people were questioning Kevin's report earlier this year about the Chiefs seeking land in Kansas, and then that was later reported by Bob Fesco. And listen, don't take it from me. The mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, Mayor Quentin Lucas, he was on Pete's show and said, hey, the reporting on this station has actually been very fair and accurate. So that's from him, not me. Now, with that said, Ty Masterson, the Senate state president in the state of Kansas, said he expects something by December 15th. Ty Masterson, by the way, is attempting to run for governor in the state of Kansas for 2026. Now, this is the same Ty Masterson, with all due respect, who said that, back in late June, when the Chiefs extended the star bonds, the thought was, we would still expect something within 3 months. Well, those 3 months have very well passed. I mean, we're in mid-November almost. This has been dragging out longer than it needs to go. I mean, they extended the star bonds for a full year, but Ty Masterson, in the interviews that he's done publicly, he has said, look, we expect something by the end of 2025. We're in mid-November. Now, 6 weeks, I suppose, is enough time. I thought everything they've had up to this point now is enough time, but apparently not. They're moving the wheels on this. And back in training camp in late July, they said, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. Well, that was late July. Let's just say early August, just for the sake of this discussion. 3 months have passed since then. I don't know. When the Chiefs say, we're getting closer, I don't know what that means anymore, because this is dragged out way too long. Way too long. Honestly, longer than it needs to be. I know when we were getting closer to football season kicking off, the Chiefs had media availability helping promote the Nebraska and Cincinnati game at Arrowhead. And Mark Donovan spoke to the media, and he mentioned something about the possibility of having another vote in Jackson County, not the state of Missouri, in Jackson County, to see if they can get additional, help financially from Casey Mo and Jackson County. And I know the question was asked, if that vote gets shut down again by Jackson County voters, what then? And he gave a really interesting response, said that would put us in a tough decision. So I don't know if the Chiefs have any plans to be done by December 31st. Remember, Kansas, their star bonds extend all the way to next summer, basically the middle of summer, end of June. So this can go on for as long as the Chiefs want to make it go on for. I mean, we thought this was going to end in the middle of the summer this year, and the Chiefs said, hey, we really want to extend the star bonds because we need more time on this. Kansas said, sure, as far as our extension goes, we can do it for a full year, but we really expect it by the end of the year. And Ty Masterson verbally has said, we expect something in 3 to 4 months. Those 3 to 4 months, have passed now. I mean, you got to make a decision here. Figure it out. I do not believe Jackson County would approve of a second vote. Well, here's the thing. The benefit the Chiefs have this time is they're not connected to the Royals. Look, I don't care what anyone says. People are shaming Jackson County voters for voting no, and I think that's completely unfair. The Chiefs, first of all, did not have a good renovation proposal. That wasn't anything that I thought was worth $800 million, which is now $1.15 billion. We don't know the new renovation plan. That has not been revealed yet, shockingly. I know Alex Smith was interviewing Mark Donovan on Sirius XM NFL Radio, and Mark Donovan was saying, hey, we have ideas and designs that we're mapping out for both Kansas and Missouri, and they both look great. Cool. That was before the season. Show it to us. We're in November now. This is, again, like I said, this is going on for way too long. Way too long. If the Chiefs are listen, the Chiefs are serious about negotiating with Kansas. A lot of people keep saying, "Oh, Kansas is a puppet in all of this. They're using Kansas as leverage to get what they want, so they can stay at Arrowhead." Perhaps, but I don't listen. I think the move to Kansas is a possibility. I also think that the Chiefs staying at Arrowhead is a possibility. Also, I mean, those are your only two options. At one point, it seemed like Missouri kind of took the lead. At another point, it seemed like Kansas took the lead. In terms of the public reactions, especially in the last 365 days, the way people are reacting on both Kansas and Missouri, because Missouri people are upset when they saw the RFP last week, request for proposal. People were not happy about that. People were not happy that, because again, this turned into a Kansas Missouri thing, and I don't subscribe to that. You guys know me. But people on the Missouri side were upset that the Chiefs requested an extension from the state of Kansas. So this is real. First of all, it's dragged out too long. I've already told you that. My thing is, what's changed in the last year? Because a year ago this time, the vote had already been shut down. I mean, you know what you're getting in Kansas City, Missouri. And by the way, one little problem, and again, this is not to say that this could be the difference maker in the Chiefs leaving or staying, but it is something to point out here. I don't know if the Chiefs are really aligned with the Mayor Quinton Lucas. I really don't know that right now, because the mayor said on his live stream on his Facebook page, and I've shared this before, he said that the city and the county can do more to activate the area around the Truman Sports Complex. I mean, what? The Royals are going to move and you're going to put a couple of sports bars, a shopping center there? And when are people honestly going to go there, excluding game days? I don't think that's really a district that would be worth using. The Legends area is different because of the way that's structured. Like, be honest. Are you really going to, on a random April or May, drive to the Truman Sports Complex where, people have talked about the area, not the most enticing area to go to, let's just say. Are people really going to go to that area to hang out at a sports bar? No, you've got plenty of better options in this town, both in Kansas and Missouri. So you don't want to build a district just for game days. I think that'd be a big waste of money. And I don't know how those businesses would even survive on non-game days. Spoiler alert, they wouldn't. That's why the Legends and 119th and Knoll Town Center, those are enticing options because they've already got an entertainment district there. By the way, as far as the Royals go, it doesn't seem like Washington Square Park is a legitimate candidate at this point. It truly does sound like it's either North Kansas City or 119th and Knoll. If they somehow pick Washington Square Park as the site, which logistically speaking, that is not possible, I would be shocked. I would be completely shocked. Next year is coming up quick and we'll be here before we know it. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the fact that, again, this is going on for too long, the fabric material in the Midwest is a joke. Yeah. When I heard that, listen, I think Missouri, and I know I listened to the what do they call it? Special session, I think it's called. I apologize. I'm not very well into politics. When I was listening to that, the senators, they did not shy away from the fact that Kansas has a better offer, even if Missouri approved of the 50% assistance for the Chiefs, the state of Missouri, that is, which they did pass. Was not the most one-sided vote, but they still got it to pass nonetheless. So that's one of those things right there where if you're the state of Missouri, you got to be completely honest here. You're feeling the pressure right now. And again, I don't know what's going to happen with the Royals. I know they're doing a monkey survey to ask for fans on their opinions. I don't know what they need from them. Like, you're doing it after the season. It's just weird timing. But this whole Kansas thing, especially from the Chiefs side of things, that has momentum, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. Now, let me just be clear. And Pete Mundo said this when he talked about the RFP. This does not mean they're moving. This does not mean they made a decision. And a lot of people are acting like it is. It's not the case. They're not done. I do think the Chiefs will request a vote this spring, which is not at all what the state of Kansas would want to hear. But I guess when the extension, legally speaking, goes for a whole year, you kind of have to deal with it. As aggressive as Ty Masterson has been, and I'll say this because I've listened to Ty Masterson do multiple interviews, he's a man of very few words, but anytime he speaks on this subject, he's very optimistic. Now, he admitted in a recent interview with Pete Mundo, that is, that his optimism is starting to lose its patience. So that was a little interesting, because he did say earlier this year that, hey, we expect something. When the Star Bonds were extended this summer, he said we expect something within 3 months. And those 3 months have passed, as I've mentioned to you. Chiefs, Royals, get it together, man. Get it together. My feed is having issues. What does that mean? And is anyone else getting issues? If it is, let me know. Otherwise, let's move on here. Patrick Mahomes spoke to the media today. This is a really funny story. I can't even talk about this with a straight face. He spoke to the media, and the topic of Maxwell Harrison's comments came up. Maxwell Harrison, a phenomenal rookie defensive back for the Buffalo Bills, having a really good season. He was talking after the game when the Bills beat the Chiefs, and basically said that the Chiefs did a lot of things on film that they saw coming, and he went and attacked it, preventing the Chiefs from being able to do what they wanted to do, specifically with Xavier Worthy. And right away, when those quotes went public, a lot of Chiefs fans actually thought that was a good thing. And I'm over here thinking, and I've kind of provided a little bit of a different perspective on this, because what has been a big complaint with the offense? The play calling. That's always been a complaint in Kansas City. And listen, Andy Reid's a great play caller, but in certain situations, people do question some of those decisions. And looking at Andy Reid, I think he got maybe the biggest gift from Maxwell Harrison, who, by the way, made a rookie mistake. If you're the Buffalo Bills, you know there's a very good chance that you're going to see the Chiefs again. Now, if they're both wild card teams this year, which is a possibility, but if you're both wild card teams this year, the odds of that do go down. But hey, the football gods might make their magic work. Who knows? Now, with that said, I'm just looking at what Maxwell Harrison said. And because you know there's a possibility you might play this team again, you don't say those things publicly. And again, as a Chiefs fan, like many of you who have complained about the play calling, I think Maxwell Harrison just did the Chiefs a big favor. And maybe this was a wake-up call to tell the Chiefs, hey, look, you're kind of predictable at times. Even with all the talent at the wide receiver position, you're pretty damn predictable. Maybe change things up a little bit and make it less obvious, because the Chiefs do that. The Chiefs do make a lot of things obvious. And listen, the jet sweep, the shovel passes, they've moved away from those because it feels like they exhausted those plays as much as they could in the past, to where teams kind of caught on with those. I mean, we saw, I think it was Xavier Worthy in the Jacksonville game. He got stuffed on a jet sweep that the Jaguars saw coming, especially when you're going in the direction of Josh Hines-Allen. That certainly makes it easy for him. But in general, you know, the Chiefs, look, they've got so much talent on this team. And I know one of the biggest complaints with the Kansas City Chiefs right now is the lack of usage of Tyquan Thornton. And I did some research and I looked at the top 100 receivers in the NFL right now. Receivers, running backs, tight ends, pass catchers, essentially. The top 100 players in receiving yards. Tyquan Thornton, out of the top 100 players, has the best yard per catch average at 22.2. Now, if you go to ESPN.com, it says he has the 8th best. Now, that's including guys that maybe have very few catches on the season. Like maybe some guy who was low on the depth chart that had like a 50-yard catch. He's high up there, but he hardly ever plays. So that's like the only catch he has on the season. I'm not counting those guys. I'm counting just the top 100 players in terms of receiving yards for this season. Nobody has a better yard per catch average than Tyquan Thornton. So my question to the Chiefs is, what are you doing here? I get Rashee Rice is the guy. I get Xavier Worthy has so much talent, had a great rookie season last year, and you want to carry it over this year. Yes, he's playing through some shoulder pain, no question about it. Hollywood Brown is a guy that, has been with this team for more than a year. He hasn't played much, but the thought is that, with all the time he spent with Patrick Mahomes in the offseason, last year's OTAs, last year's training camp, this year's offseason programs, that they could maybe get the ball rolling. And at times they certainly have, and give credit to Hollywood. I want to say he's the best player on the field for the Chiefs. He's not the best receiver, not at all. But when Worthy and Rice were not available for you, Hollywood Brown stepped up and did a lot of good things that this offense really needed. And it wasn't, I'm not saying that was the solution at the time, but it was helping the Chiefs, at least stay somewhat competitive in the 2 losses they had early in the season against the Chargers and the Eagles, and also helped them in the Giants game. But we all know Tyquan Thornton. I mean, he's had a really big hand in Kansas City's offensive success, or what you had earlier in the season. And ever since Worthy's returned, even before Rice's return, we've seen very, very little of Tyquan Thornton. And I think that needs to change. I want to see the Chiefs find a way to utilize him more. I'm not expecting him to be number one on the receiver position in terms of snaps. I get that's not going to happen. But I think you can give him more than, what has he had in some games this year? 7 snaps. I think one game he had. In the last game against the Bills, he was not targeted until the second to last play of the game, when the Chiefs basically attempted 2 Hail Marys in that game. And Tyquan Thornton on the second to last play, that was his first and only target, almost caught it. What was it? Last game against the Bills, he had 14 offensive snaps. Against the Commanders, he had 5 snaps. I mean, listen, the Chiefs won 28-7. They pulled away in the second half after a really close first half. Okay. Against the Raiders, he had 27 snaps, and a majority of them were in the second half when the game was out of reach and they pulled a lot of the starters. Against the Lions, not necessarily a blowout, it was fairly close all the way through, 17 snaps. The first 3 games, he had 44 snaps, 45 snaps, 55 snaps. And ever since Xavier Worthy's return, he has had no more than 29 snaps in a game. And it's gone even more down since Rice's return. So I don't know. That's just odd to me. If the Chiefs can find ways to win games, I suppose it's not going to matter. Look, I know Nick Wright said something about how the Chiefs are holding back. Look, I know a lot of people aren't particularly a fan of this guy, but Matt Castle, who of course played for the Kansas City Chiefs, he responded to Nick Wright's comments. And I know, Nick and Matt have a little bit of a history because of Nick's time in Kansas City. Look, I know a lot of people in the national media don't know this. Nick was a great radio host in Kansas City. I mean, he really did ask questions that nobody else would ask. They weren't always the best questions, but I actually appreciated the questions he would ask. Real quick, sorry, before I get to Matt Castle's comments, I'll never forget this. Nick Wright had Scott Pioli on his podcast once, and towards the end of the interview, Nick Wright said, "Okay, Scott," I can't even say this with a straight face, and I'm sure Nick would even look back and say, "Okay, that could have been handled better." Nick asked, "Hey, Scott, we're going to go through every single position, and you're going to tell me if this is a need or not. Quarterback, is that a need or not?" And Scott was like, "Nick, I'm not going to go through every position group with you." Which is sure, like, no GM is going to do that on any interview. But listen, that's why we love Nick Wright in Kansas City. He really did ask the questions that nobody would ask. But anyway, to go back to Matt Castle's comments, Castle made a valid point. He refuted what Nick said by adding, Andy Reid's not going to hold back plays during a regular season game just because it's the regular season and that you might see this team again in the playoffs. And if he is, this is not the time to do it. You're 5-4 looking outside of the playoff picture. Right now, you're a couple of games behind the Broncos. You're already down against the Chargers. So winning against the Chargers in December becomes very pertinent. Otherwise, if Denver's going to run away with this division, you're competing against the Chargers for a wild card spot. And because the Chargers would have 2 games on you, you're probably fighting for the 7th seed, if we're being honest. Now, the Chargers, I don't know what kind of a football team they're going to be. I actually think the Chargers will fall out of the playoff picture because they continue to have offensive line injuries. I know Joe Alt came back, but then got hurt again and is out for the season. So I think the Chargers are going to fall out of the playoff picture. I think Buffalo's got one of the wild card spots. I think Kansas City will if Kansas City beats Denver this week, I think they'll win the division. If they don't, I think we have to be honest and expect the Chiefs to have to settle for a wild card spot. They'd still be behind, but I think they can make up for that as the season goes on. So there's very little room for error. And I know Andy Reid acknowledged that earlier in the week, talked about the sense of urgency, especially when you're looking outside of the playoff picture. And Patrick Mahomes acknowledged that as well today. So this is a must win for Kansas City. And we'll get into the Chiefs and Broncos game. I'll break that game down and give you guys my thoughts on this one. The Broncos are a weird team. Bo Nix has done some good things this year, but he has not been consistent. This Broncos team, the last couple of weeks against the Texans, which is a very good Texans defense, and then against the Raiders, which, let's be honest, outside of Max Crosby, can anyone tell me something good about that Raiders defense? Bo Nix has not played particularly well. He really hasn't. And I think if you're Kansas City, you've got to figure out what have other defenses have done. And that's going to be Spag's job this week. Oh, I'm sure he's been doing that this whole bye week. What can you do to slow down Bo Nix in this game? Because they might not have J.K. Dobbins, and that will be significant because Dobbins is 5th in the league in rushing. And if he's out, this Broncos offense might not have a lot of viable options. I like RJ Harvey. That was one player I was kind of hoping the Chiefs would get. He had a very fast 40 time. The Chiefs ended up getting a guy who had a slightly faster 40 time in Brashard Smith, but was taken much later. But nonetheless, I think RJ Harvey, he has a good skill set that could help the Denver Broncos. But is that the preferred option for Denver? No. So I'm curious to see what the Chiefs do. And I'll give you guys some of these numbers here because, and I said there's a really crazy fact about the Broncos. I'll share it right now. The Broncos are tied for the best record in the NFL at 8-2, which is great. You never apologize for winning, even if they're ugly. The Chiefs had a lot of those last year. The Chiefs have had a lot of ugly wins. The Chiefs had several ugly wins in 2022. So, and I know Creed Humphrey said this before, we're not in the business of making those wins look pretty. It does help that they have a lot of guys available now, and I think the wins that they've had, they're all multiple possession wins. Now, the Broncos, even though they're tied for the best record in the league, their punter, Jeremy Crawshaw, he leads the NFL in punts with 53. Think about that. The Broncos have the best record in the NFL, but they've also punted more than any team in the league. Now, yes, the Broncos do have an extra game compared to most teams because they've yet to have a bye week. Their bye week is coming up after playing Kansas City, but still, to have the best record in the league and to have 53 punts on the season, that one is a head scratcher. Yeah, Brad says Pat Surtain being out of season. Yeah, and we'll get into that because I'm just focused on the Broncos offense for now. Because that Broncos defense, I mean, that's a pretty damn good defense. Boy, imagine if Spags had some of those guys on his defense, but that's a hypothetical. Can't really get into it too much. As far as the Broncos offense goes, Spags, he's got the capability of rattling opposing quarterbacks. And I've been telling guys all season long, the Broncos offense will figure it out. The Broncos offense will figure it out. They haven't figured it out. I've been wrong on that. So hopefully the Chiefs do not become the team that the Broncos suddenly start figuring things out. Because if that happens, Kansas City has a lot of questions to ask themselves. I mean, it becomes gut check time at that point. You're going to be 5-5, possibly. And you're going to have to start asking, why is it that the Jaguars were able to win against you? And please don't say, oh, Chris Jones was lazy on that play. Games are not won and lost because of one play. I mean, whether people want to go into the specifics or not, the fact of the matter is the Jaguars beat the Chiefs, and that does not look like a good loss for Kansas City right now. Not that any loss is a good loss, but against Jacksonville, given some of the teams they've lost to recently, that's not looking good. Buffalo is a great team, but they did just lose to a 2-win Miami team. Well, 3 wins now, but you get the idea. So Kansas City needs to figure out a way to be more consistent in these games. Because if the Chiefs somehow miss the playoffs, and I don't think that's going to happen, but if they lose this game, then you have to wonder, the 3 losses against the Broncos, potentially, the Jaguars, and the Bills. Those are games you could have had. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. I know. I don't like hypotheticals either. We can't really talk about what should have happened because the truth is what matters is what did happen. And what's happened so far is the Chiefs have lost 2 games. Maybe they didn't have any business losing. Now, I will say this. I think Buffalo, if Kansas City scored more, I think Buffalo would have found a way to score more points. And the Chiefs, they can't allow the Broncos to have their best offensive output in this game. Because if that happens, there's going to be a lot of questions with this team. This is going to be a very hard defensive battle, I think, between the Chiefs and the Broncos. And we'll get into that shortly. Like I said, Spags, his defense is going to need to have a really big game on Sunday. I did mention Spags, and I do want to get into his situation right now. Of course, I know Spags will be asked about this tomorrow, and he'll probably refute it. But as you guys know, the Giants fired Brian Daboll. Daboll, of course, was the Chiefs offensive coordinator back in 2012. He's improved a lot since then. Did a lot of great things with Buffalo, Alabama, won coach of the year at one point with the Giants. But, your past does not always protect you. And the Giants felt like it was time for him to go after another big blown lead in the 4th quarter. Now, some of the media have put out there that Spags could be a possible candidate to become the head coach of the New York Giants. That's not something any Chiefs fan wants to hear. Chiefs fans have fallen in love with Steve Spagnuolo and everything he's done for this football team. I know it took a couple of years to get that defense in place that he wanted, but boy, it's been a lot of fun to watch. Now, the idea as to why Spags would be a candidate for the Giants head coaching job is because he's been the defensive coordinator there not once but twice. But when Ben McAdoo was fired, Spags was the interim head coach, and he has head coaching experience before. It's not great experience, but hey, listen, given what he's done as a defensive coordinator, I think he's certainly earned himself a second opportunity. There are a lot of head coaches who don't do well their first time. And sometimes even their second time, they don't do well. But if they continue to do well as a coordinator, they will draw interest from a lot of teams. Matt Nagy got interest last year. Spags has been getting interest for a couple of years now. Now, I will say this, for what it's worth to you, on DraftKings, they mentioned the Giants head coaching job and who could receive the title for next head coach of the Giants. They actually have odds on this. I did not know DraftKings had odds on this. Micah McCarthy is at plus 700. Bill Belichick is at plus 750. Gruden's at plus 800. Clint Kubiak is at plus 850. Then it's Mike Kafka, who's right now the interim head coach and former Chiefs quarterbacks coach. I would be interested to see if the Chiefs would reach out to him if in the event they lose Matt Nagy in the offseason and he does not get retained by the Giants. Then it's Lou Anamoro, the defensive coordinator for the Colts, Cliff Kingsbury, offensive coordinator of the Commanders, Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator of the Bills. I think he certainly is in position to earn himself a job. Jesse Minter, Jeff Hafley. So those are the top 10 guys they have. Spags is not on that list. Could that change? Of course. But here's the thing. Spags is from that area. And he's been with the Giants multiple times. He's had multiple stints there. As much as people don't like to admit it, I think we have to accept that Spags would seriously consider that. Do I think Spags would get it? Probably not. I think the Giants would go in a direction like Mike McCarthy. I think, honestly, Joe Brady is really at a position now where he could seriously become a head coach, and maybe that's where he goes, especially with some of the offensive weapons there. Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo, Wan'Dale Robinson, if he returns. I'm not familiar with his contract situation. Malik Neighbors, when he comes back from injury, happened earlier in the season, so he's got plenty of time to recover there. I think the Giants would honestly be a great place for a lot of offensive coordinators to want to go to because of the offensive weapons you have there and the potential you might add in that offseason. So we'll see. Like I said earlier, Nagy's been receiving interest. The rumor, that is. The Titans, obviously, you've got the Mike Borgonzi connection, who was an assistant GM of the Chiefs. He's now the GM of the Titans. So it would make sense that maybe Mike Borgonzi would consider hiring Matt Nagy. So those are some things to consider there. All right. I got to get into this real quickly here because Mecole Hardman, he is on Buffalo's practice squad. Which, listen, first of all, he doesn't have a lot of options at this point. He has to accept some job. He couldn't make Green Bay's practice squad, or I'm sorry, he couldn't make the Green Bay roster and was on their practice squad, then was let go for reasons unknown. When he was with the Jets before getting traded back to the Chiefs, the Jets, who are not a good team, they said, yeah, we'll send you back to KC. What are you giving us? A fourth or a fifth? Whatever that pick ended up being, a sixth. I can't remember what it was. They said, yeah, sure. You can have Mecole Hardman back. We don't want him. I did not watch Hard Knocks that year, but apparently on Hard Knocks, when the Jets were on it that season with Aaron Rodgers, Mecole Hardman, I guess Mecole Hardman was told by a fortune teller that his season would end with a Super Bowl win. Well, that fortune teller was right. He caught the game winner there. And by the way, I've seen a few Chiefs fans say, oh, why would he go there? Basically shaming him. And I know fans, they talk about loyalty in sports. Look, man, Mecole Hardman doesn't have a lot of options. He has to accept the job somewhere. Otherwise, this guy might have to find another line of work because I don't think this guy's made that much money to where he could just retire and stay at home forever. No. I mean, I'm not familiar with what sponsorships Mecole has, if and any. So you've got to be on someone's practice squad. And this is kind of reminding me of Neil Smith. We had Neil on the podcast over the summer, and that was a podcast that got mixed reactions. A lot of people saying, oh, he's a traitor, whatnot. He specifically brought up on the podcast that the Chiefs did not want him. He was not wanted back in Kansas City. Guess who wanted him? Denver. Like, do I like that as a Chiefs fan? Hell no. No Chiefs fan should like that. But you got to look at it from his perspective, too. Like, you can't just be like, no, you guys were a rival of ours. I'll never go to you. I mean, they wanted him. And let's be honest, he made the right decision. Because Kansas City, unfortunately, was struggling in the 90s. In terms of the playoffs went. I mean, listen, same thing with Mecole Hardman. He's on a really good football team. Let's be completely honest. Buffalo's a good team. Do we like Buffalo? No, we don't. But that's a good team. Tyreek Hill did say that he's going to be a difference maker for Josh Allen. He could be. Listen, Mecole Hardman has a great skill set, but we haven't seen that come to fruition at any point in Kansas City. Looked good his first 2 years, but it went way down right after that. I don't know why, but hey, listen, man, even if it's a team like Buffalo, I'll always wish Mecole Hardman the best. And listen, I know it was a very simple corn dog play, but you still have to do your job to make that happen. McCole Hardman was on the receiving end of the most epic moment in Chiefs history. A walk-off touchdown in overtime of the Super Bowl. We've only had 2 Super Bowls go to overtime. McCole Hardman became the second player to score a touchdown in overtime of any Super Bowl. So I'll always appreciate McCole Hardman. For me, I'll never forget my reaction to that moment. I was just like, holy shit, this year of all years with everything that happened. And listen, that just because that was a simple play design there does not mean that catch was guaranteed, given everything that was going on that year with the Chiefs and the drops. So McCole Hardman, he secured it, and the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. So I'll always appreciate McCole Hardman because of that moment. Take a quick time out from the show to let you know I have partnered with DraftKings Sportsbook for an offer you don't want to miss out on. I have teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook to give new customers an opportunity to receive bonus bets plus 3 months of NBA League Pass. New customers can bet $5 and get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us, plus unlock $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. All you have to do is sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook today using my promo code FARZINE. Then just place a $5 bet, and if your bet wins, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets, plus 3 months of NBA League Pass on us, no matter what. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on my personal favorite, DraftKings Same Game Parlays, for a shot at an even bigger payout. And if you love the thrill of live betting, DraftKings Sportsbook has got you covered. You can bet live on star player props and in-progress games right as they happen. And you can do all of this right from your phone. Once again, new DraftKings customers can sign up using my promo code FARZINE and place a $5 bet and earn $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Plus, 3 months of NBA League Pass on us, no matter what. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
Thomas says, I think it was the year prior they had all the drop. No, Super Bowl 58 was that season. It was that season because that's when they had all the drops. They brought back McCole Hardman to try to help that. It really didn't. Listen, that was a weird year. Even Justin Ross, who had all this hype coming out of college, but then had the injury and was let go by the Chiefs, and he's still not on a team, which is shocking to me because he had all that hype at one point. But I guess teams don't really have any interest. He was on Kansas City's practice squad, I think, all of last year, and no one claimed him. So. That's the path of Justin Ross. But my point is, even that year, Justin Ross had drops, and he barely was on the field that season. And then it ended with McCole Hardman getting that game-winning touchdown for the Super Bowl. Hardman was a great supplement to Tyreek Hill. When Hill left, Hardman started to fade. That's a really good point, Charlene. Yeah, because I remember, when the Tyreek Hill audio came out, remember that? The child abuse allegations? That was a really weird weekend. And the Chiefs, their first pick came in the second round, so they drafted McCole Hardman thinking he would replace Tyreek Hill. Because a lot of people said McCole Hardman is very similar to Tyreek Hill. And he is, just a little bit taller. But when Tyreek Hill was cleared of any wrongdoing, he came back and people thought, wait a minute, these two are going to play together now? And they actually looked really, really good. Especially when Sammy Watkins was still part of the picture as well. And I think Tyreek got injured for a few games to start the season, like 4 or 5 games. So McCole actually stepped up during Tyreek Hill's absence. And when he came back, especially in 2020, McCole Hardman was pretty good. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think once Hill left, that is when Hardman just was not the same anymore. That's a really good point. I still feel like with his speed, the Chiefs could have found ways to utilize him better. Like, remember that divisional round game against the Bills in Buffalo when Tyler Bass missed? I know Bills fans love to cling on. You guys are lucky because our kicker missed. Sure. I guess the counterpoint to that is Tyler Bass is lucky he even had a chance to tie the game because McCole Hardman fumbled at the 1 and the ball rolled into the end zone for a touchback. Because Andy Reid got way too cute with the play calling. To our point earlier about the Chiefs and how they make some things a little too obvious at times. Which is weird because McCole Hardman twice inside the 5 in that game fumbled. He only had 2 touchdowns that whole game, and he fumbled both of them. It was weird. It was a really weird game for sure. He housed one versus Tennessee. Yeah, listen, McCole had a couple of really big touchdown plays. Are you referring to the AFC Championship game? I know Sammy Watkins had a big one there. McCole Hardman in the 2020 AFC Championship game. Remember, he fumbled the punt return, and then he scored a touchdown to make up for that. And then he also had a 50-yard play later on to make up for it again. Like McCole Hardman, he has these weird moments where he completely makes a mental mistake that you're like, come on, man. And then the next play, he'll do something awesome. So, I don't know. The inconsistencies have been frustrating for sure, but hopefully he figures it out because I think that guy's way too talented to not be playing in the NFL. All right, before we start breaking down the game between the Chiefs and the Broncos, I forgot to say this at the start of the podcast, but I do want to give everyone a happy belated Veterans Day for those who serve or have served, and for those who are family members of those who have sacrificed so much for our great nation. Definitely want to give our thanks to you guys because what we do in our great country could not happen without you guys. So greatly appreciate those who defend and protect our freedoms in this country because without you guys, none of that would be possible. So definitely wanted to get that in there with Veterans Day being earlier this week. With that said, let's get into the Chiefs and the Broncos. This is without question the most crucial game of the season. I think a lot of people knew that this would have been a big game anyway. To call it crucial from Kansas City's point of view, something that I don't think a lot of people anticipated because Kansas City right now finds themselves at 5-4. You'll lose this, you're at 500, and you're down. You're going to have a 1-2 record in the division. That is not something Kansas City can afford. This is a must-win for Kansas City. And listen, there's pressure on Denver. They've got the best record in the NFL. Indianapolis unexpectedly dropped the game earlier this season against Pittsburgh. And because of that, the number 1 seed is wide open right now. Not for Kansas City, but for Denver. So Denver is trying to stay in the hunt for the 1 seed, in addition to trying to stay ahead in the AFC West. This will be on CBS. No surprise on this one. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo calling the game. I think they've called every Chiefs game that's been on CBS this year, including the Raiders game, which I was a little surprised by, but I guess there weren't a lot of great options for CBS that week anyway, so they gave them the A crew. The referee for this one, Adrian Hill. Hey, Broncos fans, let me just tell you something, because I got a lot of reactions. Oh, you're informing everyone who the refs are. Yeah, I did. That's something we have done for years on this podcast and on our social media. Yeah, we've been doing it for years. By the way, Broncos fans are not happy that Adrian Hill is the referee. I did not know this, but I'm going to go with, because I've had multiple Broncos fans tell me this, so I'm just going to go with it. The Chiefs are 4-0 when Adrian Hill is the referee. So take that for what you will. But Broncos fans are already using that as like a preemptive excuse for this game. So that's interesting. The Chiefs opened up as 3-point betting favorites. That is now at 3.5, according to DraftKings Sportsbook. The Chiefs are minus 205 money line favorites, whereas the Broncos are plus 170 underdogs, and DraftKings has the over-under at 43.5. That is tied for the third fewest over-under for Week 11. Thought that was interesting. So just something to be aware of there. Patrick Mahomes, 13-1 in his career against the Broncos. The last time Mahomes started a game in Denver, that was when the Chiefs lost. Mahomes had the flu going into that game, and the Chiefs, I think, lost that one by a score of 24-9. Was not the greatest game from Russell Wilson, but because the Chiefs offense was not producing in that one, the Broncos were able to pull away in that one there. So Patrick Mahomes, 13-1 all-time in his career against the Broncos. Keep in mind, the Chiefs, specifically Mahomes, did not play that game last year in Denver because the Chiefs had the 1 seed locked up. So rightfully so, they rested all their starters. As far as the injury report goes for this game, on the Chiefs side of things, the only Chiefs player who did not practice today was Isaiah Pacheco due to a knee injury. He did not play a week and a half ago, against the Bills due to the knee. and Clyde Edwards-Helaire played that game. Did not start, but did get a little bit of action in that game. George Karlaftis was limited in practice due to a thumb injury. Now, listen, with any football player's mentality, especially a defensive lineman, I think it's going to take more than a thumb to keep George Karlaftis out. But nonetheless, that was on the injury report. Jaden Hicks, Charles Omenihu, Josh Simmons, Trey Smith, and Juwan Taylor, they're all on the injury report, but they were all full participants. To be clear, Josh Simmons is not injured. He didn't visit the trainers, but they still put his injury designation as personal, not injury related. So that is listed on there for his injury reason, not designation. I apologize. That was the wrong choice of words. His reason for being on the injury report. Juwan Taylor did leave the Buffalo game a little early. He's listed with knee and ankle. Trey Smith is still visiting the trainer due to a back injury. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you visit the training staff, you're on the injury report. That's how that works. As far as the Broncos go, they have a lot of guys on their injury report that did not practice today. The tight end, Nate Atkins, J.K. Dobbins, a running back I mentioned earlier, him not being available could seriously be a difference maker in this game because the Broncos don't have a lot of options on offense. Jonah Ellis also on there. Alex Singleton due to an illness. A very interesting story that came out after the Raiders game because the Chiefs, I'm sorry, not the Chiefs, the Broncos and the Raiders played on Thursday Night Football last week. So the story that came out with Alex Singleton is he received a random drug test, and on that drug test, it was discovered that he had testicular cancer that he had to remove. So they took care of that. So, hey, listen, good news for him. He came out personally and acknowledged this, announced it. So the good news, and I saw this from Luca Evans, who covers the Denver Broncos, mentioned that he was able to remove that tumor a day after playing against the Raiders. So crazy story there. Glad to hear he's in good health. It is expected that he will not play in this game, which is unfortunate for the Broncos because he is the leading tackler for them. But listen, I think he's got another situation right now to kind of take care of with the aftermath and all of this. So hopefully on a personal level, he's feeling better. So good news for him personally on the field. Might not be available for this game. We'll see. Obviously, the biggest player on the injury report for the Broncos is Pat Surtain II, the son of Patrick Surtain, who played in Kansas City for a couple of years. He's on this injury list due to a pectoral injury. Did not practice, hasn't played for a couple of games. Broncos defense has still been great without him. With him, you certainly would like to increase your chances. But man, this Broncos team still very good defensively. And you kind of wonder with the Chiefs offense, if the offensive tackles can do their jobs, that will really allow Mahomes to utilize his receivers in this one. Because Denver's secondary, they've got some strengths and weaknesses without Pat Surtain II. They've got some holes on that defense without Surtain. And that's what Patrick Mahomes can exploit in this one if the pass protection is there. All right, let's get into it. You know who their head coach is. Sean Payton, former Saints head coach, former Super Bowl champion with the Saints when Drew Brees was there. Their offense, kind of a crazy offense, which is coordinated by Joe Lombardi. They scored 33 points in the fourth quarter against the Giants. That played a hand in Brian Daboll's exit. They also scored 18 points against the Eagles in the fourth quarter of that game to come back and win in those two games. Not necessarily a massive comeback, but they also had a little bit of a fourth quarter rally against the Texans, a low scoring game. But that Denver offense started to pick it up in the fourth quarter of that game after being very quiet for 3 whole quarters there. When you look at their offense overall this season, some ups, some downs, total offense, they rank 13th, rushing 9th. And a big part of that is due to J.K. Dobbins, who might not play in this game. Passing 18th, scoring is 17th. Their third down offense, they convert 38% of the time. Not good, below average. That's 20th in the NFL. Their red zone offense, fairly good. They're 10th in that category, scoring a touchdown 65% of the time. They're in the red zone. Bo Nix, their second-year quarterback, had a great rookie season. Jaden Daniels was the better rookie quarterback last year, but Bo Nix did some great things as well for the Broncos. This year has kind of been an interesting year for him. 2,100 passing yards 18 touchdown passes. That is tied for 5th best in the league. But he also has 8 picks. That is tied for the 3rd most in the league. Now, the Broncos do have a really good offensive line that's protected Bo Nix this year. Bo has only been sacked 10 times on the season. His completion percentage, this is a very interesting one here. He has a 60.9% completion percentage. He's also scrambled 47 times for 205 yards and 3 touchdowns. He has never been sacked more than 2 times in any game this season. And no surprise given that he's only been sacked 10 times. Against the Raiders, he threw for 150 yards, the lowest this season. He had 1 touchdown and 2 picks in that game. By the way, the final score of that one was 10-7. So that was the only touchdown the Broncos had. He had a 57% completion percentage in that one. And let's go over some of his stats in the last couple of games. Against the Raiders, I just told you, 150 yards, 57.1 completion percentage. Against the Texans, 173 yards, also severely low. 48.7% of his passes were completed. And I know the Texans have a great defense, but that is astronomically low. Against the Cowboys, great offense, but bad defense, 247 yards. Almost 66% of his passes were completed. Listen, if the Chiefs play that same Cowboys defense later this month on Thanksgiving, I'd like to think Mahomes can do much better than that, because that Cowboys defense is brutally bad. Against the Giants, 279 yards and a 54% completion percentage. Again, that's against the Giants. So, and that's one where he really had to rally in that 4th quarter, scoring 33 points. Bo Nix has really had some hot and cold moments, more cold than hot for sure. So you're thinking if Kansas City can get to him, this could be a one-sided game in terms of the matchup between the Broncos offense and the Chiefs defense. The problem is the Chiefs have not been very consistent getting to the quarterback. And the Broncos have a great offensive line. To kind of go over who they have on that offensive line, Garrett Bowles, right now rated by Pro Football Focus the best pass blocker in the NFL. He's allowed 8 pressures, no sacks. That is incredibly good. Mike McGlinchey, the right tackle, complete opposite, 25 pressures allowed. That is tied for the 12th most this season. The Broncos offensive line as a whole, they've only been charged for allowing 4 sacks. Now, if you're wondering, what about the 6 other sacks? That could maybe be charged to a tight end or another pass blocker that's not an offensive lineman. Coverage sacks, those also can occur as well. Quinn Miners, the right guard who's been there for quite some time, pretty damn good. Maybe a top 5 guard in the NFL right now. A guy that they can rely on. Their left guard, Alex Pleswinski. Hope I said that correctly. He's been a problem, more specifically in run blocking. So if the Broncos are going to try to utilize RJ Harvey, assuming he's going to be the main running back in this game, expect the Broncos to run more to the right than to the left side. Not saying they'll never, ever run to the left. I mean, you got to mix it up. You can't make it obvious all the time. But if they're going to run or choose to go run heavy, you'll see it more on the right side than the left side. As far as the other players on the Broncos, I mentioned J.K. Dobbins, 772 rushing yards, the 5th most in the NFL, 4 touchdowns on the season. Will he play in this one? I don't know. We'll see. He's dealing with that foot injury. He's averaging exactly 5 yards a carry. That is what you want from your running backs. He ran for 77 yards against the Raiders. Pretty good considering his yard per carry average in that one. Thought they should have utilized him more given how low scoring it was, but they didn't. RJ Harvey, 2nd round pick from UCF. This was one of the players I was hoping the Chiefs would consider in the 2nd or the 3rd rounds of this draft. He had a 4.440 time. That's the 4th fastest of running backs from this draft class, right behind Brashard Smith, who ran a 4.3940. So pretty good there this season. He's rushed for 214 yards and is averaging more than 4 yards a carry, 4.3 to be exact. Cortland Sutton, 590 receiving yards, leading the team in that category. 41 catches, 4 touchdowns for him. Troy Franklin, 2nd-year man from Oregon. I know that was a player the Chiefs were thinking about before trading up to get Xavier Worthy. He has 435 receiving yards. He's got 5 touchdowns, which leads the Broncos, and he's also got 42 catches, also leading the Broncos in that category, averaging just over 10 yards a catch. Not ideal for a receiver, but he's still been able to produce when they throw the ball to him. Been targeted 73 times. They like throwing the ball to Troy Franklin a lot. I mentioned Franklin got some good speed. Another guy that's got really good speed for the Broncos, and we'll mention him on special teams later as well, is Marvin Mims Jr. From Oklahoma. Really good football player there, and he's been able to carry that speed over on special teams. We'll get into that later. As far as his offense production goes, 234 yards, 1 touchdown off 22 catches. Great speed for Marvin Mims. So that is the Broncos offense in a nutshell. Their defense, which is coordinated by Vance Joseph, was the head coach of the Broncos from 2017 to 2018. He was let go, then became the defensive coordinator of the Cardinals, and then went back to the Broncos in 2023 as the defensive coordinator. He was also the Dolphins DC several years back. I always laugh when I hear Vance Joseph's name. If you remember the sideline reporter for ESPN, I think he was originally from ESPN Deportes, but because ESPN needed a fill-in sideline reporter, this guy filled in, if I'm not mistaken. And he was trying to hype up Vance Joseph right before the game on the sidelines, giving a sideline report. And I think he just like stumbled on his words and forgot what he was going to say. And he goes, Vance Joseph, and he paused and he said, he is having the time of his life right now. I'm like, that's an interesting report. Well, hey, it's Monday Night Football. Glad he's having the time of his life. I remember that went viral, so that was pretty funny. I think that was back in 2018 or 2017. That was back when Joseph was a head coach of the Broncos. But anytime I hear Vance Joseph's name, I always think of that. But anyway, Vance Joseph, his defense, pretty damn good. They are in the top 6 or higher in everything. Total defense, 3rd in that category. 1st in yards per play allowed, 4th in rushing, 4th against the run, 6th against the pass, 3rd in points allowed per game. As far as 3rd down goes, the best 3rd down defense in the league, 28% conversion rate allowed. They also have the 7th best 4th down defense. By the way, Kansas City, they have the 3rd best 4th down offense, something to keep in mind in this game. Red zone, number 1 red zone defense at 38%. They've got 46 sacks, the most in the league. And the next most, it's Pittsburgh and Seattle with 32 each. Now, Pittsburgh and Seattle have played 1 game less because they've all had a bye week. So the Broncos, who've played 10 games, let's compare them to another team that's played 10 games. Who else has the most sacks that's played 10 games? Indianapolis. How many do they have? 29. The Chargers also have 29. The Patriots and the Commanders, who've also played 10 games, they have 22. So the Broncos, even though they've played an extra game, the gap between 1 and 2, whether you've played 9 games or 10 games, big difference. So I've been saying all year long, the Broncos, in my opinion, scary defense, and I have said they have the best defense in the NFL. And when you have that sack production that high, yeah, you certainly earn that label. And it all starts with Nick Bonito, one of their best defensive players there, maybe their best defensive player with Surtain out at the moment. He's got 9.5 sacks. That's the 3rd most in the league. He had 13.5 last year, certainly going to surpass that if he stays healthy. 48 pressures, that's also 3rd most, and 9 tackles for a loss. He had 1.5 sacks against the Raiders, 2.5 against the Eagles. Another edge guy that they've got who's great, Jonathan Cooper, 7.5 sacks. That's tied for 7th most in the league. Boy, I told you, they're scary, man. 7 tackles for a loss, 4 pass deflections. That's pretty good for an edge guy up front. He had the other half sack that Bonito shared with Cooper there. Zach Allen, their defensive end, 6 sacks, 6 pass deflections. That's also really good for a defensive front guy. John Franklin Myers, another guy on that defensive front, 4.5 sacks. A lot of guys to account for on that defensive front. So you know that Kansas City's offensive line is going to be tested. This is going to be the game where the Chiefs' offensive line is going to be battle tested more than any other game. And if you remember last year, the Chiefs had that. Everyone remembers that game for Leo Chenal blocking that field goal. I mean, listen, forget about the 38-0 game. The Chiefs, that was a preseason game. The Chiefs, when they played the Broncos at home and had that blocked field goal to win the game, That score was 16-14. And listen, if that kick was not blocked and it was through the uprights, would have been 17-16. Still fairly low scoring. So this Broncos defense will do whatever it takes to get to Mahomes, because they did it last year and it worked. Now, the difference between last year and this year is that the Chiefs have a much better offensive line compared to last season. We're not complaining about the offensive tackles as much as we were last year. If you look at the injury report, I know Juwan Taylor was dealing with an injury, left the Buffalo game early. He was a full participant, so he's expected to play. But if Juwan Taylor struggles in this game, I think you have to have Jalen Moore ready to fill in at right tackle, because Josh Simmons is back. I mentioned earlier, he practiced today in full, and the thought is hopefully he's up to speed. Maybe using that bye week to kind of ramp up, getting ready for this game. Because the Chiefs are, I would argue, in the 4 games that Josh Simmons did not play, he certainly was missed in that game. Now, he's going to be a rookie going up against one of the best edge rushers in the NFL right now. So how does he do in that one? Certainly is going to be tested. He might have some moments in that one as a rookie, but I'd rather have Josh Simmons there than anyone else. Right tackle, I know Juwan Taylor's played better recently. Last game, not so much, but overall, the last 4 or 5 games, Juwan Taylor has played much better. We're not spending a lot of time complaining about him, are we? No, we're not. But I do worry about Juwan Taylor in this one, given how he played in the Buffalo game, because Buffalo's got a really good defensive front as well. So not as good as Denver's, but still fairly good. So that's my biggest concern. How do Josh Simmons and Juwan Taylor do in this game? And is Jalen Moore on speed dial to fill in at right tackle if needed? I'm more concerned about right tackle than left tackle in this one here. So we'll see how that matchup's going to go. Vijay on Instagram says undefeated till the rest of the season, postseason, Super Bowl, Chiefs, Rams. Okay. All right. I love the optimism. Love the optimism. To finish up the Denver Broncos defense, we talked about their defensive front. They also have Tillman, who's got 2 picks on the season. Their linebackers, I mentioned Singleton, might not play in this game here. Justin Cernod, 70 tackles on the season, 1 pick. One of just 5 picks on this Denver defense, surprisingly. Given how great their defensive front is, they've only got 5 picks. And to kind of go back about the Denver offense, I forgot to mention this. They have dealt with some drops as well. I don't know exactly how many, but that's been an issue this year. And I know that there was that one play on 3rd and 1. They do a backwards pass to try some weird, cute trickery play that did not at all work to fruition. I know Broncos fans were complaining about that a lot after the game. To go back to the defense, I mentioned a couple of their linebackers. Dre Greenlaw, former 49er, remember him, certainly. Part of that defensive group as well. I mentioned Pat Surtain earlier, may not play in this game, probably won't play in this game. They do have a really good safety in Talanoa Hufanga, one of the best safeties in the league, especially in coverage. But the rest of their secondary, certainly some ups and downs there. They've got Jaquan McMillan. Opposite of him, Riley Moss, filling in for Pat Surtain. This is the one player I think every Chiefs fan needs to keep an eye on. Number 21, Riley Moss. If Kansas City's offensive tackles can block and stand up to Benito and Cooper, Patrick Mahomes will have the time he needs in this game to get the ball to his receivers. And with Riley Moss getting more playing time because of the injury to Surtain, Patrick Mahomes is going to pick on Riley Moss, especially if the safety help is coming from Brandon Jones. If the safety help is coming from Hufanga, that'll help the Broncos. But if it's coming from Brandon Jones, that'll be an issue. That'll be an issue for the Broncos defense. So I'm really curious to see, especially if they go man-to-man, Patrick Mahomes is going to pick on Riley Moss in this game. Number 21 on the Broncos defense. Keep that in mind. Chris Abrams, Drain, also a part of that secondary as well. Let's get into the Broncos special teams unit, which is coordinated by Darren Rizzi. He worked with Sean Payton in New Orleans, stayed for a bit after Payton's departure in New Orleans, and then reunited with him this year in Denver. Their kicker, Will Lutz, 12 of 15. All of his misses have been from 40s or 50s. He's made all of his PATs this year. Jeremy Crawshaw, very good punter, but leads the league in punting with 53, which is crazy for a team that has the best, or tied for the best record in the NFL. Now, I mentioned their return game. Marvin Mims and RJ Harvey, they handle a lot of the kick returns. Marvin Mims handles a majority of the punt returns. As a matter of fact, Mims has the fourth most punt return yards this season. His longest punt return is 35 yards, so nothing too big, but he's had a lot of solid punt returns for the Broncos this year, putting him at fourth most on the season. Okay. Now I turn it over to you guys for a moment here. What is your score prediction for this game? Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram. I want to hear from you guys. What is going to be the score to this game? Because I know this is such a cop-out thing to say. This game could really go all over the place. If the Broncos offense chooses to wake up in this game of all games, Kansas City could be in trouble in this one. If Kansas City's offense steps up and plays better compared to their most recent game, the Broncos could be in serious trouble, especially if their offense continues to struggle. Now, what's the possibility of both offenses struggling? Well, if you look at the betting lines, and specifically our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook, they have the over-under at 43.5. And I told you guys earlier, at the moment, on this Wednesday night, that is tied for third fewest. That's the third fewest over-under for Week 11. And I think if you're Kansas City, you can find ways to be better about that. There's a possibility both defenses play great. And it's going to come down to which offense can come through in the fourth quarter. And we know the Denver Broncos come alive in the fourth quarter. Listen, let me just say this, because in the most recent game against the Buffalo Bills and in last year's regular season game at Buffalo, Kansas City and Buffalo both had a fairly low-scoring offensive outing in the third quarter of both meetings. I'm talking about last year's regular season meeting in Buffalo and this year's regular season meeting in Buffalo. Both the Chiefs and the Bills, kind of their offense really vanished in the third quarter. Neither offense was great in the second half of the most recent game. But in the game last year, what happened? Kansas City had a 3-and-out. Buffalo had a 3-and-out. Kansas City had a 6-play drive. Buffalo had a 6-play drive. Kansas City could not get anything going. At some point, one offense had to move and get going. It was Buffalo that chose to get going. Kansas City eventually got going, but it was too little too late. I'm hoping this doesn't turn into that kind of a game where it's a defensive outing, because if both defenses show out on this one, I think this could go to Denver. I really do. Because Kansas City, offensively, the problem with Kansas City's offense is when they're involved in a defensive battle, they tend to not step up. Look at the game against the Commanders. That was a low-scoring first half. But in the second half, the Chiefs figured it out. What I'm saying is, if it becomes a defensive battle in the second half, that's where I'm seriously concerned, especially on the road. Let me see what you guys are saying for scores. Brody says 23-20 Chiefs. Thomas says 31-17. I assume Chiefs. Rob says 17-13 Chiefs. Both defenses show up, but Casey pulls it out. 21-17 from Chiefs from John. Thomas says, I promise you the Broncos defense isn't what you're making it out to be. Oh boy, Thomas, I don't know about that. Chiefs will own the middle of the field and crush the screen game. Broncos offense will not be impressive. Well, listen, I'll say this. Are the Chiefs capable of making that happen? Sure. Who did the Broncos not face last year in the two times they played the Chiefs? Rashee Rice. Now, if Rice was available, they would have only played him once because the Chiefs had the one seed locked up late in the season. So, yeah, listen, I will say this, Thomas. I would love to see the Chiefs utilize their offense to their full potential. I know Hollywood Brown was asked today in his press conference if he felt that the Chiefs offense had essentially played to their potential, and he said no. So even the Chiefs know very well offensively that they need to play better. Defensively, listen, I don't think the defense has been awful. I think their worst game was the Jacksonville game. because that turned into a little bit of a shootout. They played better in the second half of the Bills game. Now, could the Bills have maybe scored more? Sure. But the Chiefs stepped up in the second half of that game at the end of the day. I think offensively speaking, I want to see consistency. Listen, Kansas City's offensive tackles, Jawan Taylor has played better lately, but overall body of work hasn't been good. Most recent game, Jawan Taylor had a bad game. Josh Simmons, hopefully he's in football shape. He's been out of action for a month, plus the bye week. So hopefully he's been able to use the bye week to ramp up and get himself back into full football shape, because he is a rookie that's going to face a very good edge rusher. Listen, I think the Broncos are going to get to Mahomes a couple of times. And I think the Chiefs, with their specialty linebacker and DB blitzes, I think they'll get to Bo Nix a couple of times as well. Unfortunately, their defensive line alone is not good at that. Can Mike Pennell help change that? Hopefully. He's only played one game back so far, so we'll see if that defense can play better with Mike Pennell back. But I don't know, man. I get a little concerned because the Chiefs have been inconsistent. Let me just say this, because I know the Kareem Hunt play, they call it the Hunt Bunt. Had no idea until the most recent game. That's been very effective. I think Jim Nantz and Tony Romo said that's more effective than the tush push. Listen, I guess numbers don't lie, but that's kind of a surprise. I will say this, whenever Kareem Hunt needs just 1 or 2 yards, he'll get like 4 or 5 sometimes. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say. Farzine, right before halftime, they gave the ball to Kareem Hunt, and he got stuffed for a loss. Yeah, he did. Want to know why? Because the Chiefs ran the worst running play you could have ran for Kareem Hunt on a short yardage situation. You had trips left. I think it was Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy. As much as I love having those three on the field, that's not what you should have. That's not the personnel you should have if you're going to do the Hunt Bunt. If you're going to run a passing play like a little bubble screen, yeah, sure. I am all in favor of that play. But that's not what they ran. They ran a Hunt Bunt, and that's why he got stuffed. The right personnel was not on the field. John says, let's nix out Nix. That's a big key right there. I like the way you put it. That's a good one. I like that. I like that a lot. Sherilyn says 2031 Chiefs. We know the Chiefs come alive in the second half. Hopefully. Last game, we didn't see much of that. So I'd like to see the Chiefs be better about it. So, yeah, okay, interesting. Some people they've got scores all over the place. Rondaria says, y'all are lucky Surtain is not playing, but Benito and Allen will make it hard for Mahomes. Yeah, I trust that Benito and Allen will make it hard for Mahomes. But, dude, come on, miss me with the, Surtain not playing thing. Name me one team that has 0 injuries right now. The Chiefs had a shit ton of injuries last year, and they still found a way to get the number 1 seed. The Lions also had a bunch of injuries on the defensive side of the football, and they also got the number 1 seed. Now, I know it didn't end well for the Lions. They were one and done. The Chiefs got blown out in the Super Bowl, but they still got to the Super Bowl. Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice did not play for a majority of the season. Pacheco did not play for a majority of the season. Look, the Bengals a couple of years ago did not have Joe Burrow, and they almost made the playoffs with Jake Browning. Injuries really are not an excuse anymore. I mean, listen, you kind of said it yourself. You're obviously optimistic with your edge guys, but I mean, the Broncos, they're still winning without Pat Surtain. So you can't sit here and say, oh, well, you're lucky we don't have this player. Every player's been dealing with injuries. The Chiefs were without Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy for the majority of the first half of the season. So every team deals with injuries, some worse than others, sure, but every team deals with it, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. As long as you have your quarterback, you should be good, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a very close battle. Look, I've gone all over the place with my score prediction. I am going 27-24. I don't think it's going to be, I think both defenses are going to do good things. I also think both offenses are going to do some good things in this game. But I think at the end of the day, this will be a game that will come down to who has the ball last. I do think it'll come down to that kind of a situation. I think Kansas City will pull away and win this one. It's going to be a close game. I'm going 27-24 Kansas City in this game. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. I appreciate all of you guys joining me tonight. If you guys missed any part of this live stream, it'll be archived very shortly on Facebook, YouTube, and X. It'll also be available anywhere where you can download and listen to a podcast on podcasting platforms such as Apple and Spotify. So be on the lookout for that. If you enjoyed this, please share it with your friends. Let them know about the Chiefs Zone podcast. Invite a friend. Let them know about this podcast. So spread the word. I know you guys have been doing that. We've been growing so much. Every year, the show continues to get bigger and bigger, and it's because of you guys. When you guys share, when you guys comment, when you guys like these live streams, and also all the posts, that really does help spread the word about our content and the podcast. So please continue to do that. That's how we get pushed out there in the algorithm, and I greatly appreciate all of you who have been doing that. Once again, my name is Farzin Vasugian. Shout out to you guys for joining me on this live edition of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Appreciate everyone who tuned into the live stream. We'll be back this Friday, Red Friday live chat, 5 p.m. Central Time. And then Sunday, we'll have the pregame live chat at 10 a.m. Central Time. Join me for that. Then we'll have our halftime live stream and our postgame live stream. We'll do the Chiefs Zone podcast live with your call-ins. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Again, I'm Farzin Vasugian. This is the Chiefs Zone podcast. I will talk to you all for the Red Friday Q&A live chat. Take care.